How's it going, friends and neighbors? It's Combs, and guys, today on Adventures with yours truly, it's time for another episode of Review My Stuff. Now, if you're new to the channel, let me go over what that means. So here on Adventures with Combs, I don't like to review anything that, is just kind of peddled, if you will. Like if somebody's like, here, review this, we'll give you something. I'll never do that on this channel. All the things that are on Review My Stuff have to follow 3 different sets of criteria. Number 1, it has to be something I've owned for 90 days, something I've used more than 10 times, and something I would recommend beyond the shadow of a doubt to a close friend or family member. And this is no exception. So guys, this is the Gazelle T4 hub tent. And honestly, it's one of my favorite pieces of camping equipment that I own. Actually, this thing might be my favorite tent ever. And I'll get to that in a minute. But first things first, this tent is actually highly controversial because as far as, folks that do outdoor, channels and things are concerned, this tent is either loved, like it's the best thing on the planet, or it's absolutely hated. And I'll get to all those things as well. But like we do on every Review My Stuff episode, first we'll do a walk around, kind of talk about some features of the tent, and then after that we'll go into the good, the what needs improved, and kind of the weird. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into it. So I'll go ahead and open up this door here. That is totally the screen. I know what I'm doing. Anybody into zipper ASMR, you're gonna absolutely love this part. There we go. Okay, so as far as entry into the tent is concerned, you have a door here. You also have a door on the other side, which you can probably see the daylight through. As far as windows are concerned, each window except for this side has, because of the doors, has 2 openings. So as you can see, window, 1 window and a door, 2 windows, 1 window and the door. You also have venting up top, as you can tell right there. Hopefully I made no one dizzy. But so it's got plenty of venting. I will admit, sometimes the airflow in this thing is not the best, depending on where you set it up. And that's kind of like the biggest beef a lot of people have with this. But I have ways to combat that, which I'm going to do a little short on, which you guys can check that out as well. But basically the tent, and this is also the Rainfly. I didn't put this on because it's like 10 degrees off the devil's armpit out here. And I just didn't feel like we needed it. So the tent itself actually goes in that bag, which, is kind of bulky overall. The whole thing is like 5.5 feet long. So that kind of gets a little cumbersome if somebody's trying to carry it by themselves. Not trying to sound like I'm some kind of strong man or anything, because I'm definitely not. But for me, it really doesn't matter. The tent weighs, I believe it's somewhere between like 40 to 45 pounds. So it's not real light. So, this is definitely not something you're going to take on a hike-in trip. This is definitely going to be something you're going to use for like state park camping, vehicle camping, something where you're not going to be carrying this thing for long term. But because it's bigger and bulkier, you've got more room. So let me talk real quick about how you set this thing up. This is one of the features that I do really like about the tent. So you see this little handle here? So the Gazelle, because they're hub tents, they use these X hubs. So on the inside of the tent here, you can see this. So that actually is what gives the tent its tension. These pop out, and that's what holds it up. So if you push in on it, you can see how that goes in, and basically you do that for all 4 sides and the one on the top. Now if we go in the tent, One thing is this is a bathtub style floor. So basically the bottom there, that's actually Velcroed all the way around. So you can take the bottom of this tent out if you want to clean it easier or whatever. Personally, I have never done that. I've really not seen a need to do that. So that's probably not something I'm going to do. But if you want to do that, you totally can. Now, another thing is this. So I've probably got, you know, looking straight up at the tent there, I've probably got about 4 inches of headroom between the top of this tent and the top of my head. So I can stand up completely in the center of this tent. If anybody's ever camped for any length of time, you know how much it sucks to have to try to do like the shimmy where you're trying to put clothes on, take clothes off, whatever, without being able to stand completely upright. This tent completely eliminates that. So now as far as storage is concerned, you do have multiple storage pockets. You're not going to run out of room for storage. So you've got one big storage pocket there, another storage pocket of the same size, 3 and 4 of the same size storage pockets. So you can keep all kinds of stuff in there and away from stuff you don't, you know, necessarily want it to be around. Also, as far as storage is concerned, you do have another storage thing that connects here. So basically you take these off, slide this over here, and now you've got storage all the way across the tent, which is very nice. Now, the things that are kind of weird about the tent, in my opinion, are the D-shaped doors. Now, I will admit I have caught my foot on the bottom of the tent right there, because you can see you kind of have to take your foot and kick it out and then step out. Now, a lot of people don't really care for that. In fact, that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people complain about with the tent, is the fact that of the D-shaped doors. Another thing, like I addressed earlier in the video, that people kind of complain about is the weight. You know, some people want to take their tents on hike-ins or whatever, and this is not going to be the tent for that, like I said earlier, because it does weigh right around 40 to 45 pounds. That's kind of a number, like I'd say the number 2 complaint is just the weight of the tent. Now, the other thing that people complain about with the tent is the price tag. Now, I got mine on sale. So, make a little note here for me in the editing booth to pop up the current pricing for this tent. But I got mine on sale for tax, title, everything. Tax and title, good lord, am I buying a car? You know, out the door price, if you will. Can you tell I used to sell cars? It was on special for $350. That was with everything, you know, the tent itself, Uncle Sam's cut, the whole 9 yards. And honestly, I think it's worth that, just because of how rough and tumble it seems to be. You know, the construction's good on it. You know, it's held up very well, and I have used it, and I've also let other people use it too, so they haven't had any complaints with it. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it all kind of comes down to preference at the end of the day. I've seen people literally complain about the color choices from Gazelle. You know, they're not a big fan of the, you know, high fluorescent orange. But they do make this model in a couple of other colors. They do make the Overland edition, which is like a dark green in the gray, which I think looks a little better. But overall, I don't really mind the orange. It really doesn't bother me. But there are some people that are really into, as a buddy of mine says, the fashion things. So they really want their tent to not be orange, I guess. So what do I like about it? Well, the things I like about it is this. It's super simple to set up. I apologize I didn't show you guys the actual setup, simply because it is super hot outside, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of on a time crunch. But I've wanted to do this video for so long, and I now got the opportunity to do it, so I kind of made it happen today. Like I said, you literally take it out of the bag, you pop out all of those hubs all the way around, pop up the one in the middle, and it's done. I literally had this tent completely set up in, let's just say, a minute and a half. You know, we're talking like, you know, rooftop tent status on how quick I had this thing set up. The second thing I like about it is just the overall amount of space. Now, this is a 4-person tent, as you know, they say with the T4 model. However, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys in on a little secret about the camping industry in case you don't know. If anybody ever tells you that a tent is a X number of person tent, if you want to be comfortable in that tent, always divide that number by 2. Okay? So if you're looking at a 4-person tent and you don't want to be crammed in there like sardines, dare I say nuts to butts, then you want to go with a higher number. So like I said, if you're gonna do a 4-person tent, it's gonna be solid for 2 people, maybe 3. I think you could comfortably fit 3 people in this tent. And by comfortable, I mean, you know, them having enough space to move around a little bit, to have like a sleeping, you know, an actual like air mattress or a cot, not just like a little thin sleeping pad. But always kind of keep that in mind, you know, when you're looking at a tent. So I can tell you on the trips I've taken this out on, it's only been 2 people. It's, and we've had plenty of room. You know, when I went and took the trip up to Canada last year, which I didn't get to go this year, otherwise I'd be coming back from that tomorrow. It was my father and I was on an air mattress. He was on a cot, and we had plenty of room. You know, we had all our gear in there. It was nice and secure and dry. You know, but we didn't have, you know, any space issues. And I'm 5'10". My father is 6'1". So he was actually even able to stand up completely in the middle of the tent, which he just found absolutely fascinating. And also he found fascinating the fact that we had this tent set up. Between him and I, we literally had it up in a minute. It is way easier with 2 people, but you can set this thing up solo. That's why, like I was talking about earlier, there have been some people that have totally roasted this tent, and I really don't see as to why. There is a gentleman, I have been a subscriber of his for a couple years now, so I mean to throw no shade whatsoever, but a gentleman by the name of Luke that runs a channel called The Outdoor Gear Review. Him and his wife absolutely roasted this tent. They hated it. You know, some of the things that they said were a little nitpicky, in my opinion. Other things, they had a valid point. You're right. Sometimes the airflow in this thing is 100% not the best. The door design is a little funky. But I think overall, this is a quality tent. And if you're looking for a tent that's easy to set up, you know, both in, you know, putting it up, tearing it down, it's super simple. And it's, like I said, it's got quality construction. I have no issues with the construction on this tent. Now, one thing that he did point out in his video, speaking of construction, like right here, I have bugs. Like right here, for example, there's a, you know, a little string that's come down. Trying to think, there was something else that I had seen the other day when I set this up too, and I really don't remember, but I think that was it. Oh, so there's some little phrase right here, and you know, he was just kind of roasting it as far as like, you know, the overall build quality and everything, and I'm like, look, you know, those are things that I am more than willing to overlook, as long as I set the tent up in the rain with the Rainfly, which I don't have on. Like I said, it's right there. As long as it's watertight, you know, within reason. I know not every tent's going to be 100% watertight, But as long as it does the things I need it to do, which this definitely does, I'm willing to overlook little nitpicky things. But maybe there's some people that just can't. And I did totally realize I did not talk about how to put the Rainfly on, so I apologize for that. But the Rainfly is just as simple as the rest of it. So, see these poles here? Basically, you take these poles and you put them right there. Now, you got to make sure you have this middle hub down. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. So you got to have the middle hub in that position like that. And that's where you put on the Rainfly. And then when you push back up on it, that's when the tension from those poles going up will actually hold the Rainfly in place. So that way, you know, it's good to go. Now, like I said, those are the good. I've said the good. I've said the in my opinion, not really the bad, but kind of like the I guess the inconvenient, you know, with how heavy it is and all of that. The one thing I will say that actually is like a bad, in my opinion, is these tent stakes. These tent stakes absolutely positively suck. Like, they look like they'd be solid, but they're not. I mean, you know, these are your typical, you know, I call them vampire stakers, but they're made out of a real flimsy material. They're awful. So to be honest with you, I normally don't stake this thing down because first and foremost, it does weigh quite a bit. I mean, today we've probably got 10-15 mile an hour winds out here and everything's cool. On top of that, you know, if you put my fat self in it, that's roughly 200 pounds of man on top of either my cot or a sleep or an air mattress. So I feel like this thing's weighed down, you know, pretty good. Now, if I was going into a real high wind situation, yeah, I would probably, you know, consider staking this thing down more. But I am going to upgrade those stakes in the future because honestly, they're not the best. So if I had one thing that I would say is that definitely needs improved, it's those tent stakes. That's the only one where I kind of feel like with the price tag you pay for the tent stakes could be better. But as far as everything else is concerned, overall, guys, I really like this tent. It fits very nice in the back of my truck. You know, as far as transportation is concerned, super easy to set up. And overall, I just dig it. So we reached the end of this review. I'm sorry if it seemed like it was a little all over the place. If you have any additional questions whatsoever, leave them in the comments below and I will answer your questions. So at the end of every Review My Stuff episode, I always give an overall review. I will say this as a disclaimer, nothing ever gets a 10 out of 10 because nothing is perfect. All right. So what would I rate this tent? Guys, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I do feel like the things that are a little weird about this tent don't subtract from how good the overall tent actually is. Could it have better tent stakes? Yes. Could the door design maybe be a little different so you don't trip up sometimes? Sure. But other than that, guys, this is a solid tent. It's a good family tent, I will say that, because, you know, it's quick and easy to set up so you can get camp done and get on to doing, you know, family activities. But anyway, guys, like I said, if you have any questions, you know, leave a comment down below and I will, you know, answer them as quickly as I can. Also, do need a favor from y'all because of the way the YouTube algorithm is working. If you found this review helpful at all, please make sure you like the video. That's the only way that these videos get out further into YouTube land and get to other people that may want to see these. Also, if you found any value in this as well, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything and really, really helps us out to fuel more adventures and, you know, get out there and do more stuff. Expect more adventures with this tent specifically coming up here, because I've finally cleared my schedule a little bit more. I'm no longer working 2 jobs. So yeah, that's really going to help out to get out there and do some more content. More Riker stuff on the way too, if that's what y'all are here for. So yeah, hope you all have a good one. And we'll end this with the adventurer's prayer. May the wind be at your back, may the skies be clear, and may every single one of you have safe travels to destinations unknown. I'm Combs, live from my backyard, and the Gazelle and I are out.